My grandmother had a cabinet in her kitchen that nobody was allowed to touch. Not because there was anything valuable inside, but because every time it opened, a whole version of America came spilling out. An old TV guide, a phone book thick enough to stop a door, a glass ashtray, a coffee pot that used to make a sound kids today have probably never heard in their lives. None of it disappeared overnight. It got replaced slowly by remote controls, smartphones, dryers, streaming apps, and quiet houses where everyone has their own screen. Today, we're looking back at 10 things almost every American home had. And by the end, you might realize we didn't just lose some old objects. We lost the small rituals that used to make a house feel full of people. TV Guide. After dinner, he'd sit down in his chair and pick up a thin little magazine, reading it like it was classified material. That was TV Guide. It told you exactly what was on every channel, all week long. The very first issue back in 1953 cost 15 cents. A new one showed up every week. Before he could even open it, the kids had already fought over it to find the Saturday morning cartoons, arguing loud enough that someone's mother had to step in. Lose that issue, and the whole family was flying blind until the next one arrived. At its peak, it was one of the most read magazines in the country, selling close to 20 million copies a week. More than Time, more than Life, more than Newsweek. All to do one job: tell you what to watch tonight. The wall phone with the endless cord. That phone wasn't really yours. Before 1984, most American families didn't actually own the phone hanging on their kitchen wall. It was leased from the phone company, and when you moved, you gave it back. That long coiled cord wasn't a design choice. It was how teenagers invented a little privacy for themselves, stretching the cord around the corner, ducking behind a door to talk without anyone hearing. Little brothers and sisters would lurk outside, trying to listen in, until they got chased off with the same line every time. "Hang up, I'm waiting for a call." And Mom would stand there, stirring dinner on the stove, gossiping with a neighbor, the cord wrapped around her like an umbilical cord tying her to the whole street. The TV that was also the furniture. It didn't sit on a stand. It was the stand. A wooden cabinet the size of a dresser, heavy enough to leave a dent in the carpet. No remote control. To change the channel, you got up and turned a dial. And every house had one kid whose entire job was being the family's human remote. If the picture went fuzzy, the fix was a solid smack on the side of the cabinet. And somehow, it worked. The dial only went up to 13, and in plenty of towns, you really only got a handful of clear channels. But somehow, there was always something to watch. Together. Not like the hundreds of channels and streaming services we scroll through now before giving up and going to bed. The encyclopedia set. This one wasn't in every house. And if it was, it meant something. A full encyclopedia set was a real investment, often paid off over months, sometimes years. Salesmen came right to the door, convincing parents that knowledge was worth more than almost anything else you could buy for your family. When you had a report due, you pulled the right volume off the shelf and looked it up yourself, no search bar required. But that same set of books also doubled as forbidden territory for kids. Sneaking a peek at whichever volume held the grown-up words, just to see if the dictionary really dared to print them, then slamming it shut the second you heard footsteps. The clothesline out back. Before every house had a dryer, laundry dried in the sun, pinned up with wooden clothespins swaying in the wind. Mom hung it out Monday morning and brought it in that afternoon, and when it came back inside, it carried a smell you couldn't buy in a store. Not fabric softener, just sunlight and open air. For kids, a row of sheets on the line was basically a maze built for hide and seek, until someone got yelled at for knocking a clothespin loose. That line was also where mothers stood talking over the back fence while they waited for the wash to dry. Conversations that quietly held a neighborhood together. The dryer moved indoors. The clothes still came out dry, but nobody ever replaced those conversations. If you grew up with any of these, hit like and subscribe. 5 more still to come. Ashtrays in every room. The living room had a heavy glass one on the coffee table. The kitchen had one by the phone. Some bedrooms even had one on the nightstand. And here's the strange part. Even families where nobody smoked kept one out anyway because not having one felt rude to guests. By the mid-1960s, something like 42% of American adults smoked. A few decades later, that number had dropped to roughly a quarter. Those ashtrays didn't vanish overnight. They just got pushed into a drawer, then down to the basement, until nobody could remember the last time they'd actually seen one. The phone book, a thick book with the yellow pages, listing the name, address, and phone number of almost everyone in town. It landed on your porch once a year, and it meant anyone could find you. Your number was in there. So was your neighbors, the plumbers, the pizza place, your third-grade teacher. Everybody, in one book. In houses with small kids, it doubled as a booster seat at the dinner table. And for a certain kind of teenager, it was also a secret research tool for tracking down the address of somebody they liked, but were too nervous to ask outright. The percolator. Before automatic drip machines, there was a metal pot on the stove that pushed boiling water up and let it rain back down through a basket of grounds. And it made a sound, a slow, rhythmic bubbling that worked as the household's unofficial alarm clock. Nobody set a timer. You just listened. When the bubbling stopped, the coffee was ready. It was also the morning you snuck your first sip when Mom's back was turned, made a face at how bitter it was, and pretended nothing happened. That sound meant more than a cup of coffee, though. It meant someone in the house was already up, already taking care of things before you'd even climbed out of bed. The front porch, not a back deck hidden behind a fence, a front porch facing the street. Chairs, sometimes a swing. This was where people sat on summer evenings, catching fireflies in a jar, listening for the ice cream truck's bell from down the block, already digging for the loose change stashed in a pocket. That porch said something. I'm here, and if you want to stop and talk, you can. It was the line between private life and public life, and that line stayed open. Now, the front porch has given way to a back deck facing a fence, and the garage door opens and closes like a drawbridge, keeping the whole neighborhood on the other side. The kitchen table with enough chairs for everyone, not a breakfast bar, not a kitchen island with a couple of stools. An actual table with enough chairs for the whole family, and usually one extra in case somebody dropped by right at dinner time. If you were the youngest in the house, your chair was almost always the wobbly one. You'd sit there kicking your feet under the table, catching half of what the grown-ups were talking about, and somehow still feeling like you belonged. This was where dinner happened almost every night, where homework got done, where the family played cards, betting a few loose coins just for fun, cracking up when somebody got caught cheating, where the bills got spread out and figured out, where arguments happened, and so did the apologies, right at that same table. That table wasn't just furniture. It was an unspoken rule. No matter where anyone had been that day, or how good or bad the mood was, everyone came back to the same spot. All 10 of these things had one thing in common. They were shared. The TV guide got passed around. The whole family watched the same TV at the same time. Everyone used the same phone line. Now, your phone is yours alone. Your streaming account has its own profile for everyone in the house. Every bedroom can have its own screen. Maybe that's why remembering these old things isn't really about the objects at all. It's about remembering what it felt like to have a place where people actually lived one life together. If this brought back a memory, subscribe for more. Which one do you remember most? And does your family still have any of these tucked away somewhere?